Hello music fans, it's Brennan from the Death by Unicorn channel here to talk about some new albums that came out on October 21st, 2022. I checked out 8 new albums, mostly in the metal, rock, and prog genres, and I'll run through them in my order of preference and give you my first impressions. Starting with an album from a band called O.R.k, or maybe it's pronounced O.R.k, I'm not actually sure. The album's called Screamnasium, and this is progressive metal. It's their 4th album. This is a band featuring Porcupine Tree bassist Colin Edwin and former King Crimson drummer Pat Mastelotto. It was unfortunate that Colin Edwin's bass playing didn't happen on the new Porcupine Tree album, even though Steven Wilson's playing on that was great. But Colin Edwin's playing on this is very solid. The vocals on the opening track remind me of Chris Cornell when they go into their powerful mode. So check this out if you're a fan of Porcupine Tree and want to hear what that kind of music would sound with some more powerful vocals. Next one I'm going to talk about is by a band called Avatarium, and the album's called Death, Where Is Your Sting? This is progressive rock with doom metal and heavy metal influences. It's their 5th album. I'd never listened to an album by this Swedish band before, but I try to check out almost anything related to progressive rock, so I put this on my radar. The band features Jenny Ann Smith on vocals. It's always great to hear some female vocals in progressive music. The band was founded by the Candlemass songwriter Leif Edling, but he's no longer part of the band, but it still retains that kind of epic and dark sound. If you're a fan of bands like Black Sabbath, Ghost, Blue Oyster Cult, but want to hear something that's like if those bands leaned a bit more into their progressive side and had a bit more symphonic and ambient elements, you'll probably like this. Maybe if you're a fan of bands like Catatonia or Oceans of Slumber, you'll like this, but you won't get any screaming vocals here. It's all just beautiful singing, but it's great. Next I'm going to talk about Crooked Royals and their album called Quarter Life Daydream, and this is metalcore with some post-hardcore and progressive influences. It's their debut album. They're on Periphery's record label 3 Dot Recordings, and I trust Periphery's taste. I heard the great guitar playing on the single called Glass Hands, and I wanted to check out this whole album. The guitar playing is like Protest the Hero a little bit, but the songwriting has more metalcore chugging and breakdown style playing than Protest the Hero. There's a decent amount of harsh vocals and screaming on here, but there's still also these big catchy melodic choruses with singing. The vocals kind of sound like Ryan Devlin of Karelia to me, so check it out if you're a fan of Protest the Hero, Periphery, Karelia, with a sound that meets more metalcore sound like Killswitch Engage, Underoath, Spirit Box, and some like low down-tuned guitar chugging. 4th one I'm going to talk about is by Arctic Monkeys and their album The Car. This is indie rock. It's got some classical, alternative, pop, and funk influences thrown in. When I heard the single Body Paint, it definitely wasn't what I expected from Arctic Monkeys in a good way. It was different enough that I was interested. From what I've heard from them before, I thought they were a bit of a basic like arena rock, pop rock band, but this single made me think that there's maybe more to them than I currently knew. So I checked this out. I was pleasantly surprised by the whole album. There was a lot of use of orchestra on here, which reminded me of the more orchestral Beatles songs. So check it out if you're a fan of that style. 5th, I'm going to talk about an EP from Serj Tankian called Perplex Cities. And this is alternative rock with some electronic, metal, and classical influences. He's the lead singer of System of a Down. He's made a wide variety of solo music ranging from rock to classical to metal to jazz to electronic, And usually his solo releases pick one of those styles to focus on, but this one kind of blends them. It's a little bit more focused on the rock direction, but there's actually quite a bit of electronic stuff in there. Pop Imperialism is the first track, and it's kind of an experimental electronic art rock song reminiscent of Radiohead and Thomas Giles for me. So check it out if you like that kind of music with the immediately recognizable vocals of Serj from System of a Down. He continues that style on the next song, The Race, but then goes in a more Middle Eastern folk direction on I Spoke Up. People who love System of a Down and the other works by Serj Tankian will like this. Next, I'm going to talk about Avantasia and their album A Paranormal Evening with the Moonflower Society. This is power metal, kind of symphonic power metal. It's got some progressive and hard rock influences. It's their 9th album. This is a metal rock opera, kind of like Arion, in that there's a bunch of great guest vocalists like Jeff Tate, formerly of Queensryche, Flora Jansen, and more. It's a bit more on the power metal side than Arion and less on the prog, but if you're a fan of Arion and Star One, and then you like stuff like Nightwish, Blind Guardian, and Hammerfall and that kind of power metal, you'll like this. Second last one that I'm going to talk about is by Architects, and it's called The Classic Symptoms of a Broken Spirit. This is metalcore with alternative, progressive pop, and post-hardcore influences. It's their 10th album, and I think they used to be a great metalcore band, but I haven't liked what they've been doing recently as much. After hearing their last release before this one, I was hoping that they'd go with something less pop radio rock influence and lean more back into their metalcore, proggy, mathcore, gent influences. Luckily, this album is a bit better for me and a bit heavier than their last one. It's a bit more metal, but it's still a bit too much in line with like poppier metalcore bands like Bring Me the Horizon, but check it out if you're into that style. And lastly, I'll talk about one that's a little bit different for me to review here, and it's the new album by Taylor Swift called Midnights. This is pop, and of course she has that background in country and pulls a little bit of influences from folk and indie rock. It's her 10th album. I figured I'd check it out just because she's one of the biggest names in music. Out of curiosity, she's not usually my style. It's really nothing special here, but also nothing too offensive. Kind of just background music, pretty much average, bland pop music. The vocal melodies sound a little lazy to me, so they sound like they're influenced by mumble rap and Drake and kind of schoolyard or cheerleader chants. But check it out if you like that kind of pop music. However, I do think she's not composing and writing and performing at her best on this. Some of her older material is a lot catchier and more interesting than the stuff here. However, that's just after one listen. Maybe this is the kind of thing that would grow on people. Probably not for me, but I'm sure plenty of people will love this. And that's it for today. Until next time, peace out.